Welcome to the Influential Christian Entrepreneur Podcast, where we uncover the inspiring stories and strategies of successful Christian entrepreneurs. In today's episode, we have the pleasure of interviewing Wayne Prevett, who is a husband, father, a dreamer, a builder, and an entrepreneur. He's also an author and a podcaster. He co-founded a company called Life Celebration Ministries and has over 4,000 life celebrations under his belt as of today. Hey, Wayne, thank you so much for being here today. I can't wait to talk about what you're up to.
It's an honor to be here, Francine. Thank you so much. Love
Thank you.
telling the story. Let's go.
Yes. And I know you're from Canada, but you're living here in the US, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So did you decided to move to the US and become an American, or is that just kind of 50-50?
Yeah, interesting story. Long, long story. I'll shorten it up and just say that COVID messed up everything, and my daughter wanted to go to a gap year program, so couldn't go because of COVID. The border was closed unless I went back to school full time. So I went back to school full time, and we packed up our house and put it in storage, and we came down here. I'm now on a religious worker visa in
Uh-huh.
the US, and it is a 30-month visa. So no, we're not American citizens. That is a long process. Trust
Oh my goodness. So
even
you're
getting
COVID refugees.
They were COVID refugees, exactly. We're running away from the mad Canadian government, if I can phrase it that way.
Yes. Oh my
Um,
gosh. Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. But first, I wanted to start and ask you about your walk with Jesus, with the Lord. How long have you been a Christian? Have you always been a Christian, or did you become a Christian much later, like I did?
yeah, born on a Wednesday and went to the church nursery on the Sunday just a few days later and never left. So my journey was just absolutely amazing, filled with parents that love Jesus Christ, filled with people that love Jesus, love the Bible. And that's the world I grew up in. Yeah, I was probably 7 or 8 years of age when I realized I needed Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior, and made that decision. Baptized at 13, so Baptist background. So you put that in context.
Uh-huh.
Baptism usually comes a little bit later on in life, and then sensed this real burden in my heart to serve God full time, and did that for many, many years as a traditional pastor. Met my wife, who was a Presbyterian minister. We found love, combined our lives together, and ran a street reach outreach ministry for about 7 years with 12 other people.
Yeah.
And it was life changing. And what we do right now grew out of that. But
So you've been in the ministry all of your life. So
yeah,
you started out as a pastor.
yeah, I did. 23 years of age, I guess. First youth pastorate, and then senior pastor of congregations around the province of Ontario. Had a little stint in Port Huron, Michigan, because we were very close to the border, and met some fine people there that were starting a church. And I went over for about 3 years until the U.S. government wouldn't let me back in to do it again. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good. So you're a pastor, and then I understand that you started at some point more as an entrepreneur. Now, I know you're also a speaker. Am I correct?
Yeah, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I think I got fired from my first job at about 13 or 14, and
Uh-huh.
realized at that point in time, I really don't work for someone.
Yeah.
I had tremendous role models in my life. So my dad, self-employed, both my grandparents, self-employed, grandfather self-employed, their father self-employed. My brother-in-law is a phenomenal entrepreneur, self-employed. My uncle's self-employed. It just goes on and on and on. So our entire family is just riddled with this entrepreneurial spirit and bug. So I really have been self-employed. I think it started with a paper route many, many years ago. And then it just morphed into a construction company I owned for years, and all kinds of different things that I've done over this. I'm 64 years of age now, so over my lifetime. So I would confess to be a serial entrepreneur, and it's there, and I think you know what I'm talking about.
Right.
And then allowing God, obviously, to be a significant part of that was so, so important to us.
Wow. So you were able to pack up and leave Canada because you were an entrepreneur. You weren't attached to a to a company,
Yeah,
you say.
so because of what we do now, my wife and I, the income just kind of follows us. So what we're doing is virtually all online. Our training is all online. Our membership is our tangible, real people, and I can be wherever I need to be in the world. Uh,
Right.
it
Anywhere you
just
need to be.
I can
So,
be anywhere. I can live anywhere. The U.S. is probably one of the harder places to actually stay, unless you come in illegally, and then you can stay
right.
for all you want and be given all the money you want. But to do it legally, it's a little bit different and a little bit more challenging situation. Portugal's got a lot easier visa, so does Spain, so do many other European countries.
Okay, so you would never consider moving back to Canada, is what you're saying?
Who's listening to this?
Not Trudeau.
Not Trudeau. Yeah, exactly. We want to be receptive to what God has for us in our lives. And
Right.
we believe there are seasons that we go through, and we know the season of being here in the U.S. has been led of God. There's no
Right.
question about it. Whether or not we stay, that's very much a God issue because a green card would be needed and
Mhm.
other steps would be needed, and it will take a miracle of God for that to happen. So more than
Right.
likely, we're probably headed back to Canada unless we can sort some things out in another way. So who knows? I
Who
really
knows? Right. And,
God knows. God
I
knows.
wanted to ask you because you are Canadian about, I posted on LinkedIn a few days ago about this headline. Trudeau praying in public, reading aloud from Bible is hate speech to be severely punished. So if passed, Bill C-367 could land Christians in jail for questioning the Bible or expressing faith-based opinions in Canada. However, I read some of it and it looks like they're making it look like it is to protect Jewish people against whatever. But I don't know, that sounds like it's not really the true intention of it. And I know in our conversation when we met initially, you talked about Canada being a post-Christian country at this point, completely secular. Um, does this headline read correctly? I don't know if you've heard about this or
No,
is
very
this
much.
an exaggeration?
No, no, very much. Secularism is what drives Canada. It's not spiritualism. Secularism is what drives Canada. So don't take everything with a grain of salt. It needs to all be passed through the grid of and the lens of secularism.
Mm,
This administration, this government that's in power right now, they care about the LGBT community more than they do anything else.
right.
They are very much diversity, equity, and inclusion driven to the point where actually it's not diverse and it's not equitable and it's not inclusive at all.
Right.
If you are a Christian, you are pushed and ostracized. If you are a follower of Jesus, you are ostracized. If you don't believe in same-sex weddings, you are ostracized. If you don't believe in transgenderism, you are ostracized. And that's what they're protecting.
Mm,
It's fascinating because at the end of the day, that makes up such an incredibly small percentage of the community, but they have the loudest voice.
right.
And the reality is that if Christians stood up and said, well, we're not going to put up with this, and we had a louder voice, you just wonder if the whole thing would be flipped. So it's really interesting that the LGBTQ community can hate me. They can hate us
Mm,
because we do not officiate same-sex weddings, and the hate is very strong.
right.
But
And very loud.
if I were to return, I would be guilty and slapped with everything you could possibly
Oh
imagine.
yeah. Put in prison, jail,
Right.
whatever.
So we've turned it on its head and we fought back. We turned it on its head and said, what you're saying about us is actually hate speech, and what you're saying about us is religious discrimination. And that has actually shut some of the community up. But it won't shut this administration up and it won't shut this government up. It's really interesting because, in some respects, they seem to claim that they care for the small person, for the disenfranchised, for the one that's abused or the
Yes.
minority. The reality is that at the end of the day, it has nothing to do with that at all.
No, it
It's
doesn't.
everything to do with the fact that there is a secular post-Christian agenda, and Christianity is very much the Judeo-Christian values of Canada are being stripped away. And if that's the case, then we better strip away those who believe it as well. And I don't think, I do believe that they will do whatever's necessary to silence us. I really do.
Wow.
Even though we're not outspoken, which is maybe a part of the problem.
Wow, because when I post, I'm so glad I had you today of all days as a guest because when I posted that, some guy came out saying, no, that's not true. It's to protect Jews. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Didn't Trudeau literally have a Nazi, welcome to Nazi? I don't watch the news, but I heard about it not too long ago. So how are we talking about protecting Jews? And they were saying that it was all about preventing that somebody could use their religion as an excuse for violence. They're not talking about Christians.
No, but what about those in the extreme Muslim faith? Can they practice violence?
Right.
So the reality is that if you look at the Canadian context, Muslim kids in high school are given the freedom to have their prayer mats and pray wherever they want.
Yeah.
And Buddhists are allowed the same, Hindus are allowed the same, but Christians, no. There's no praying at a flagpole. There's
Yeah.
no praying. There's no reading the Bible. There's none of those groups. Those Christian groups are even allowed on any of the campuses, the high school campuses. So as long as they're publicly educated, if you got a private university, you're going to fight back. You're going to find campus crusade. You're going to find people like that exist on campus. But it's to the point now where the abuse is so strong, the hate is so strong.
Hate is
So
so strong.
it is really interesting because their perspective is that we're horrible people. We deserve the hate. We brought it on
Yes.
ourselves.
Yes, because we're all white
Yep.
men, bigots.
Yep.
I've
Yep.
had people call me actually a white supremacist, even though, I probably want 1/8 white, if anything,
Yeah.
1/6. So,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
but
No,
they believe it when they say it, though.
no, they
That's the
do. They
scary
do.
thing.
They
They
do.
believe it.
They do. They do. And it's actually there's zero tolerance, like zero from the community that cries for tolerance. There is zero tolerance for us.
Hmm.
They are completely and totally intolerant. But
Into,
anyway,
yeah.
don't don't take the word of anyone who's not Canadian, and don't take the word of anyone who's not living in that environment. I'm born and raised there. I've only been in the U.S. for 3 years.
Right. Well, the guy who responded is Canadian, and that's why I went and took a look. But
Yeah.
his point of view is completely different from
Yeah, yeah. Well,
ours. Right.
that's the great thing about social media, though, Francine, is that everyone's an expert and no one has the ability to test the expertness of it, and that is true. Just it was at a powerful speech last night done by a prof from Duke University, and he just indicated the fact that social media has given every individual a platform for authority,
Yes.
and it cannot be tested. It cannot be tested.
And cannot.
It
And
cannot
most
be.
people will just take what they're told just because they don't want to do the math themselves.
Right, right, right. Yeah.
So, so now you have this company called Life Ministries. Did I get that right?
We have two. In Canada, it's called Celebrating
Life.
Life Ministries. In the US,
Okay.
it's called Life Celebration.
Celebration Ministries.
So we just switched the
Okay.
wording around a little bit.
And this is what you do right now as an
Yes.
entrepreneur. You initiate weddings and life celebrations, funerals. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure, we are in the equipping, empowering, and encouraging business. The issue with life celebrations is that somebody needs to lead them. So let's put it in context. If you have ever heard the phrase a rite of passage, an RIT, a rite of passage, that's a hatch, match, and dispatch. And that's a great way to remember it. A wedding, right? Hatch is a baby, match is a wedding, dispatch is a funeral. The hatch, match, and dispatch business, over 100 years, that was controlled by professionals, and usually professional clergy. In an increasing, growing secular society, post-Christian culture, clergy are not doing it because there's less and less professionals there, and the ones that do remain don't want to do it for anybody who doesn't go to their church or a part of their faith group. So out of thousands of weddings that our organization has done, the bulk of them are done for individuals who would say are from a Catholic background,
Mhm.
because their priests are not going to do a wedding in a vineyard. They're not going to do it in a golf course. They're going to do it in a church building.
Right.
So as long as you have those rules, the young people today are saying, screw it, I'm not going to get it done.
They
People
weren't Instagrammable photos.
got to be glorious, baby, and you're not going to even have your phone available in the Catholic Church. Let's put it that way, right? But you can have it available in the vineyard. And
Yeah.
then when it comes to funerals, it's the same story. The increase of number of people who don't use a funeral home is increasing every year. Matter of fact, funeral homes are going out of business because they refuse to be malleable. They refuse to change. Just look at the Christian community, look at the Christian church, look at the number of church buildings that are closing. And we can argue it, I guess, all day as to what causes that. But I do know this, that when people leave, they're not going back. So we have this massive increase, and then the US is on a fast track that way. So you go to any state that maybe is in the north, maybe out west, certainly all along the West Coast, hardly anybody goes to church. Same
Right.
with Michigan.
California, very secular.
Yeah, very, very secular. So you just happen to have these things that are in the middle, like where I am in Virginia, where there's still a lot of strong Christian values and Christian roots, but it's changing rapidly. Matter of
Yes.
fact, secularism is on the march faster in the US than it ever has been in any other country at any other time. So the rapid movement of secularism is so powerful and so strong. It's just certain groups of individuals don't want to believe it. What we've done is we no longer are doing the events, Francine. We are now the teachers. So we're not the student per se. We're now teaching others how to go and do these events and do them well. They've got to be done with excellence. So we do equip people how to do it. There's a lot of reality that's very challenging about the life celebration world, and that is it's unregulated for the most part. In Canada, it's still regulated by the government on the wedding side. But on the US side, you can get your dog license to do a wedding. And probably no one would even question if there was a dog print instead of a signature. But I'm being facetious. But at the end of the day, with no regulation, there's no quality control. When there's no quality control, there's a really large segment of what's being done is really, really poor and really awful. So we've created our own certification organizations and we certify. Now we're experts in this. There's probably very few people that have done more events than we've done as individual as well as an organization. We also have 20 years of doing this. So our expertise is what gives them that sense of empowerment of being able to say, you can go and you can go and do this. We give them all the resources and all the tools that are necessary. We don't want professional clergy to be the ones that do this. We think that they do a poor job at it. We find that non-professional clergy, non-professional people do a far better job. Give me a doctor, a lawyer, give me somebody who's a retired military, give me somebody who just is passionate about people, but is also passionate about the kingdom. I
Right.
can equip them far easier. With a minister, a pastor, a clergy, I've got to undo a bunch of stuff before I can actually get them ready to go and do it well. They're very effective in their own communities, in their own church buildings, but they're not effective outside. So why does this matter? Well, it matters because these are God moments. These are absolutely God moments. When a child is born, God's all over it. Psalm 139. When there's death, Jesus died to conquer death. When there's a marriage, matter of fact, the whole biblical metaphor of God's love for us is a marriage supper. We're his bride. God created us for intimacy. So when you find death, marriage, and the birth of a child, the God consciousness rises to its highest level. It doesn't rise that way when you sit and listen to a sermon on a Sunday morning, but it does rise that way when there's the birth of a child, when there's marriage, when there's a funeral, when someone dies. Another reality about this is that Jesus specialized in crisis and celebration. So if we want to be Jesus followers, Christ followers, we want to have an example of Jesus in our life, this is a great place to go. It's also incredibly powerful in terms of return economically. There's a ton of money in weddings and funerals, like billions and billions and billions of dollars in the life celebration world. My conviction, Francine, is that money needs to be redeemed back for kingdom purposes. And we gave it over. We've let the unredeemed control it. Well, I believe that space and place and time, as well as money, need to be redeemed for the kingdom. It
Right.
belongs to God first. So the only way to do that is to have God followers, Christ followers, kingdom people step into this world and reclaim those resources back for the kingdom.
Right.
When those God consciousness moments arise, when we're there, we're ready, the power and presence of Christ inside of us becomes incredibly real. I've had people sit across from me that I'm marrying and apologize that they live together. Well, why would they do that? I don't have a sign on me that says I won't love you or like you if you live together. Well, people would say, I hope you'll marry us still. We actually have a child together, even though we're not married. We got thrown out of the Catholic Church because of that, but will you still marry us? And the answer is yes, I want to be there. I want to be a part of that.
Right.
when someone dies, it's really interesting. Even the agnostic, even the atheist doesn't want to tick off God. Death has a tendency for us to reevaluate.
Sobering, isn't
It
it?
does. It really does. You have pause at death the way you never do in any other arena. When we officiate a wedding ceremony, we can actually look out because we're the only person that has the view of seeing everyone that's there. I call it the view from the front. And the view from the front shows me people recommitting themselves to each other. I see hands hold hands. I see arms go around. I see smiles. I see tears. More vow renewals happen at a wedding than they happen at a vow renewal. Multitudes of people commit themselves to love again, to love with freshness, to love with newness. Well, why is that? We're inspired by the story of intimacy. It empowers us. Why is that? Because God created us that way. So we get to be a part of these things. My plea is to anyone who's listening to this in your podcast, anyone that you ever come across, we need the right people in the U.S. We found the greatest people we can find in Canada. We need to find the right people in the U.S. that can help us take this and really have this thing explode in a great way. There's a lot of hesitancy, which blows my mind with Americans, because I thought
Why?
Americans jumped into things and they were all over it, right? The hesitancy, I'm convinced, is because we don't believe that I, as non-clergy, have the right and authority to do this.
Because people don't understand their authority as a believer.
You know what? That is absolutely true. But you know what else is true? This was never ordained by God to be in the hands of the professionals. You can't find that in the Bible anywhere. Where does it
No.
say that thou shalt not officiate a wedding, Francine Sinclair?
But that's a big part of the Catholic thinking, because I used to be a Catholic. You
Mm.
assume that nobody else, that has to be the priest.
Well, it
Yeah.
has to be. It has to be. Well, we'll move into
Yeah.
the Protestant world, Francine. It's just as real.
Yeah.
Can I, as a father, can I baptize my own child? Well, the Bible says you can, but the institution might say you cannot.
Right. Never think
So,
about it.
right. So I am very much one of those people who says, no, I want to empower Francine and I will equip you. Matter of fact, we have two denominations, one in Canada, one in the US. We ordain people and place them in this position of authority. And the ordination is not because it's biblical, it's because the state demands it. It's pretty rare that you can go to any state now and not have an ordination certificate of some sort. So we provide that. More
Mm.
importantly, that to me is a moot point and inconsequential because ordination is not in the Bible. It's just the state requirement. But what's more important is Francine ready, prepared, equipped, empowered to go and provide a service that's going to be life-changing. And
Well,
that's
and it opens the door for
well,
you
it
to be
does
able to
open.
minister to people and get them closer to God.
Yeah, see, we have Christ in us.
Yeah.
Right? If I'm redeemed, if I've trusted Jesus Christ, my Bible tells me the Spirit of God lives in me. And if that's the case, then I've got the power and presence of Christ with me wherever I go. So it doesn't matter if I'm surrounded by a bunch of people who aren't Jesus followers. Jesus is there. He's present in me. He's present in you. He's present in our lives. It's not restricted to a place and time, correct? It can't be. John 4 speaks about that clearly. Jesus to the Samaritan woman, where do you worship? Well, some worship over here, some worship over there. What did Jesus say? No. This is the new day. Now we worship in what? Spirit and in truth. And that's the powerful statement that sets us free to be able to say, I can be in a vineyard with 125 people, and God is there in and through my life. And I speak the principles and I speak the truth of God. And all of those things, as far as I'm concerned, are absolutely the things that are life-changing. So every wedding we do, every funeral we do, we present the incredible truth of God's love and God's care for us. It's not overt. It's not in your face. It doesn't
Right.
include an invitation with just as I am at the end. There's no offering being passed. It's very much like Jesus did. He fed the 4, he fed the 5,000, and he did it in a very caring, compassionate way. His first miracle was at a wedding. I think that says a lot. Somebody died. Who did they call? They called Jesus. They need to call us Jesus followers now. And we need to be the ones that are there to do it. That's my message. That's the passion of our. We have seen, and I could go on for 2 hours or 3 telling you stories of redemptive grace. Powerful stories, amazing stories. And that's why
Wow.
we do this. For many people in Canada right now, we are the only God encounter they will ever have,
Hmm.
like ever, because
Yes.
they're not going to go to church. And you're not going to find Christianity bombarded everywhere like I can here in Lynchburg, Virginia.
And you're saying that a lot of the people doing what you do are non-redeemed people, are unbelievers. They are officiating weddings and
No, everyone in our team,
no, I mean
well,
outside of you guys, like in general.
100%, 100%, 97%
And
of
that is our
Canadians.
territory. It's supposed to be.
Oh my goodness, why would we not go there? Why do we focus on the 3% that go to church in Canada? Why is that our focus? And here's another part of the problem, if I can speak so freely, and that is that we have this perception that somehow, some way, the end goal is to get people into a church building on a Sunday. That is not the end goal. That was never the end goal.
No, it
It
wasn't.
was never the end goal. The end goal is to love God with all your heart and all your soul and all your mind. And there's no guarantee that putting someone in a building is going to accomplish that.
No.
And then it also says to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, my neighbor right now in Canada, 97% of them have no faith connection at all, like zero. And yet we hide in our little buildings and we say, come to me, come to me, come to me. Jesus said, go to them, go to them, go to them. Matthew 28, the Great Commission is a go commission. The commission is go. The command is go. Everything else is not. The only imperative in that passage is go.
Yes.
Not come, but go.
Yes.
Make disciples is not an imperative.
Hmm.
Make disciples is an object of the imperative. So go, we'll go and do what? Make disciples. But make disciples, that's not an imperative in the Greek. The go is. So here we are, we're going now and we're meeting people at what we call these crossroads of life. And I don't care if it's in a vineyard, I don't care if it's a golf course, I don't care if it's on top of the CN Tower. I've done a wedding on top of that on the outside. I don't care if it's in a mountaintop in a boat. I could do a Dr. Seuss rhyme, couldn't I, right? But whatever it is or wherever you are, I want to be there. I got to tell you, I think that sounds a lot like New Testament principles to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. People are stuck in religion. And Jesus said in the Bible, the harvest is huge. Where are the laborers? And
Right.
so this is a perfect way to achieve what I always talk about, which is how to mix your faith and your business. You know, you don't have to be a full-time officiating weddings full time. You could be an entrepreneur doing something and do this on the side. And that's automatically a way to mix your faith and your business because you are reaching out to other people. You are, bringing to people, spreading the gospel in a different way. They contacted you for a service, but they are getting something, that they probably weren't expecting, but it's not offending them because they expect it to be part of it. And it's not like you're going to be hitting them upside the head with the Bible. You're just
No, you don't.
officiating a wedding,
No,
a
no, no, we
birth.
don't. No, exactly. We are there to answer
Yeah.
questions. We are there to engage when engagement is needed. And
Yes.
that's a great failure of the institutional church today. I mean, we literally are unfair and unkind and disrespectful to people. This is the really cool thing. I believe this. Listen, there's a lot of people in the coaching world, right? Like tons
Uh-huh.
and tons and tons. It's a saturated world. And
Yes.
quite frankly, many of the people that I've met, I would probably say that 7 out of 10 people I've met in the coaching world make no money. I got to tell you something. Listen, the coaching in the world of life celebrations is a given. You will sit across the table and you will guide people. Because to me, coaching is guiding.
Right.
Coaching to me is that ability for someone to meet me at that crossroad and they say, what do I do now? That's what a coach is. That's what I think a coach is. Someone else might have a different definition. I don't care. But for me, that's what a coach is. And these people look at us, families look at us and they say, we do not know what we do now. Will you guide us? And
Yeah.
how powerful is it for someone to look at me? I had a couple look at me one day and they said, we've been living together for 8 years and we've decided that we now need to get married. I looked at them and I said, why? Just out of curiosity. I'm all with you. Let's get you married because I think that lines you up more with the principles of God than they don't. But
Uh-huh.
tell me why. And they couldn't answer it. So I dug a little bit deeper and I said, I'm going to tell you why. You've lost the spark in your relationship, and you're convinced that if you do this event, it's going to reunite that spark in your marriage. I'm going to tell you something, it won't. You're going to spend $35,000. You're just going to be $35,000 poorer, but you're going to be exactly the same people living exactly the same empty life. And I also indicated to them that, listen, anybody that lives together and gets married, if you've lived together 5 to 8 years and then you decide to get married, the divorce rate increases by 87%.
Wow.
87%. So the people that don't marry, and I'm not advocating for that, but the people that don't marry do better. That's a bizarre thought, isn't it? So what changes? Well, expectations and mindset do. Francine, listen, if you want to coach somebody, be present in that moment with them. Be present with them when they say, we're not sure what to do. Be present in the moment of the family that you're doing a funeral for, when someone looks at you across the table and asks this question: do you think there's a heaven? Do you think there's a hell? Be present in that moment.
Yeah. I mean, and that's that conversation that you spoke about just now is the perfect opportunity to introduce the idea of a God-centered marriage. What's missing in that marriage is God. They might be a lot more receptive to that.
Well, they might be, and if it's not that overt, it might be, listen, there are principles of your creator
Mm-hmm.
that if we take those principles and bring them into all relationships, we're going to be that much better, but
Yeah.
that much more prepared, that much more empowered. You see how I just did that?
Right.
We've lost our ability to have communications and conversations with people that don't believe the way we do.
Absolutely.
We don't know how to do it. We've lost that ability. But again, you want to coach somebody? This world is filled with coaching opportunities. Just take doing a new life celebration for a family that holds that baby and goes, what do we do now? And I got to tell you, the best of all three of these are these new life celebrations that we've created. Because you know what we do? We get a chance to look at them and go, I'm going to tell you what parenting is. I'm going to tell you, I am actually going to bump up against societal norms. And I'm going to say to you, listen, society teaches you that, grow up, go to school, get an education, get married, have kids, get a job, retire, and die. I'm going to tell you there's a whole different pattern. God's got a different plan for you. And when we talk about parenting, no one has any idea what it is. We have a chance to be able to sit down with them and say, listen, instill values in your child. What values? These values, generosity and kindness. Well, where do they come from? Your creator.
Yeah.
You know what's fascinating? There's not a single religion on the face of the earth that doesn't believe those things.
You're right.
There's not. You could be Buddhist and you believe in generosity. You can be a Hindu and you believe in generosity. Muslims believe in generosity. Christians, Jewish, Catholics, Protestants, it doesn't matter. We all believe in it. We don't all practice it, we believe in it.
Right.
Parenting is about revealing those values. Parenting is about exposing the image of the God who created us in the life of a child. That's what parenting is. It's not about getting them to the right school. It's not about getting them into the right dance program. It's
Right.
not about them getting married, getting a job, and dying. It's about revealing and exposing the qualities and characteristics of God. Now, listen to me carefully. That's a coaching experience right there that you're getting paid for. And that's the cool thing about this is they pay you for this, and they pay you an enormous amount of money. Did you know
Wow.
that the average individual today is $600, $700 to do one wedding? Did you know
Wow.
that I was doing 4 to 5 weddings every Saturday?
Wow.
Like that's pretty cool, right?
4 to 5 weddings every Saturday at $800 a pop. And so you are, so your business is teaching people how to do this, and you basically give them a business in a box model so that they can take off. And so where are you in your stage? Did you guys start this business back in 2020? Or you just getting started now? How
We got
many?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we have 20 years of history. We got everything to go. It's turnkey. So it doesn't
I
really
mean,
matter.
here in the US, you did
Yeah,
it.
it doesn't
Doesn't
matter.
matter. It just kind of carried over
It just
seamlessly.
carries right over. All we did was make sure that we remove the laws in Canada are very, very, very specific,
Uh-huh.
very particular. The government controls weddings. They don't control funerals yet, but they're thinking about it. Whereas in the UK, they control them. In Australia, they control them. So at this point in time, we just take all the content that we've got and we just translated it into American English. We, you take out the U's when they don't belong and R's,
Yeah.
stuff like that. You know what I mean? I'm just joking, but the language is different. Ours is very British based. And we just took all that stuff and we translated it into what it needs to be. So no, we've got everything ready to go. It's turnkey and it's really quite powerful, really quite extraordinary because we know what we're doing and we know how to really scale these things very quickly and substantially. And you can do this as a solopreneur or you can build a missional community around this. And I love the missional community idea. I really do. Working with a guy out of Hawaii right now, perfect situation. They got a place. They can do weddings right there. They're right on the ocean. We'll do weddings. Hey, I got a daughter who's a photographer and my mom bakes cakes. Now all of a sudden you've got this missional community that works together to serve these individuals. And I love it. And that's building a team. So
Absolutely.
that's powerful. So you don't have to go on your own, or you can be on your own if you want to. You can do as
Absolutely.
many as you want, or you can do as few as you want. So it's set up on it's a membership basis because we give you the resources and the tools and the websites and everything that you need to do it. But it's very minimal.
Right.
And we have people that charge nothing, and we have somebody in our team that charges $8,000 a wedding. So
Wow. Wow. So how many people do you have as members right now?
over 1,000.
And so you are reaching out to people here in the US who are Christian, I guess Christian entrepreneurs, or who is your audience? Who are you reaching out to?
Yeah, you know who loves us
Who?
is 40 and 50-year-old women
Mm.
who are empty nesters or just retired and have been to a really horrible event.
Ah,
So no, I'm serious. And it could be that it was their daughter that got married and they just went through the process and they're like, oh man, this sucks so bad. The person that did it was awful. Or they had a family member or a parent die and they saw the funeral done so poorly. We love professionals as well that come to us, and they're really great. So ex-military, anybody in the first responders world, they follow rules. They
okay.
understand
Yes.
systems and regulations. Does that make sense?
Right.
And they are perfect for us. They're ideal. So we have men and women. Most of the people we have a lot of 20 and 30-year-olds, but we have a lot of people who are 40, 50, 60 years of age.
Yeah.
I'm 64, very much involved in this up to my neck, obviously. And the cool thing about this is that there's zero that you really need to do in terms of investment. We use an iPad for our events. So most people have got like a small one. If you can afford that, you're good to go.
You're good to go.
You're good to go. You really are. And we give you the scripts and we give you everything that you need to be able to go and do
Oh,
this. And
that's awesome.
we train you as well and we certify you because certainly in the funeral industry, the industry is demanding certification, and we have on both sides of the border now certification organizations, and they're
Ah,
very, very, very powerful and very, very good.
amazing. I had an idea. Maybe you need to translate all of it to Spanish.
Yeah, what we do is we don't do that, but we have so many individuals that speak so many different languages, and then we say, you translate it for yourself.
They can translate their own stuff, right, to do it wherever they go. That's amazing. And it's, this is based on our conversation, this is specifically for Christians.
Whoever joins us needs to be in alignment with our faith and values, and that's how we measure it. So individuals that have come to us says we'll look at your faith statements and go, well, that seems pretty Christian.
Right,
Yeah, it is. Well, do you line up with those faith values? I
right,
would say that most people come back and go, yeah, I do.
right,
One of those determining factors, for some that people aren't happy with is, but we don't do same-sex weddings. And that's a bother for some people.
right.
And we're like, know what? There are lots of organizations out there. Go find one
That
that
do it.
maybe
Find
aligns
another
more
one.
with your values or your beliefs. But for us, we don't practice that. We don't believe that. But that doesn't make us anti-gay.
Right,
I mean, we hate anybody. For goodness sakes, I got lots of gay people that I love dearly that are in
right.
the wedding industry, and quite honestly, love them to death. Matter of fact, a
Well,
lot of them are a lot nicer and a lot more pleasant to be around
yes,
than my non-gay friends, right?
yes, for
That
sure.
is not the issue. The issue for us is that we just believe that when God created marriage, He created it between one man and one woman. So that's what we believe.
And we believe what the Bible says because this is our handbook.
Well, I
And
think
you
so.
can't be a Christian if you don't believe the Bible. And
That's what I think. You can turn it upside down and you can turn it on its head and you can say, well, God is love and love is love and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. And I'm saying, you know what? Everyone's entitled to what their belief system is.
right,
please allow me to be entitled to mine.
To
So
yours.
this is what
Exactly.
my life, this is what our belief system is. So again, we're not trying to be mean-spirited.
No,
Like I
it's not
say,
about that at
we're
all.
not intolerant. That has nothing to do with intolerance. That has
Right.
everything to do with absolutes. And
Right.
I'm not going to violate those. I just
Yeah,
can't.
exactly. I
I just
agree.
I just can't. The MAID is one of the most common means of death in Canada right now.
What is
MAID, medical assistance in dying. MA,
euthanasia?
we call it MAID. Euthanasia is too harsh a word, so the government
Well,
has now
we don't
changed.
know that word by maid. Down here we call it euthanasia.
Well, guess what? In Congress right now, it has gone through Congress and it's this far away from being passed by Senate to make it a state, to make it a universal reality all across the U.S. You better be aware of it.
Here, oh, so many things coming down the pike here in the US.
Yeah, listen, whatever's happened in Canada, it's coming this way.
It's coming down.
It's
Yeah,
coming
yeah.
down.
Because
Whatever
it's my
happened.
understanding that you can choose to die just because whatever,
No, you can
just
actually in Canada right now, they've extended this now to mental health patients,
yes,
to
yes,
VAs, and what they've said now is that you don't need a guarantor, you don't need a signature, you don't need a second voice on this. So if you are the first voice and you want to be able to say, I want to die today, they'll assist you in doing that. Medical
yeah.
assistance in dying.
Assisted suicide, right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They don't want to use that word though, but that's what you and I call
But
it.
that's what it is.
Yeah.
And this is a way to forward the kingdom um, with this method or by officiating weddings, births, funerals. It is my understanding anybody who is interested in having a kingdom business and making an impact uh, in the kingdom through the marketplace, whatever, weddings, that's a huge marketplace and that could complement anything you're doing. It could be your main gig or it could be just your part-time thing. But it is important that we take back our territory because
Oh
we
yeah.
have
Preach,
let so much of it go. And
preach.
it's really, really shameful. And we need to be a
Preach.
lot more
Yep,
proactive as
yep,
Christians,
yep.
speaking about faith in the business, in the marketplace, being active in things where we can reach people because the people who are unsaved, the lost, are more than likely not going to end up going to church.
They won't.
We have to be the representatives of the kingdom
Yep.
to be able to plant those seeds in people and help them. And when if for those who are saved, be able to guide them, right? So it's important that we, as Christians, just really stop sitting back and
Well, that's
behaving too much like the world and
yeah. No,
start doing what we were told to do.
yeah. No, girl, preach, preach, girl. You got it. You got it. Listen, we need to return to Acts 2. We need to return to everyone is involved
Yes. All
in
hands on deck.
absolutely in kingdom principles. And we got to get away from the professionalized, elevated positions of one gift in the local church. It's nonsense. It's wrong. It was never intended to be that way. We're so confused about the whole thing. But the value that anyone brings is as significant as the next person. You don't see any elevation of one gift above another in either Romans or First Corinthians. You just,
Right.
it's impossible. God never designed it that way. But we were guilty of it, particularly the American culture. Man, they love elevating their pastors to a position
Oh,
of prominence, and then they
yes.
worship them and give them really strange titles, and then we
Oh,
freak
yeah.
out. So at the end of the day, I think that's why some of this isn't working in the U.S. There's just a mindset that says, I'm not able to do that. I'm not authorized to do that. You know what? Wake up, Christian. You are authorized to do it. If
Yes.
you've been given the gifts of God, like anyone else has been given the spiritual gifts of God, you need to step into this and own this and let the Spirit of God use you in a powerful way. Matter of fact, I promise you this, you will be more effective as non-professional clergy than the professional clergy will be.
For
More
sure.
effective. You know why? Because you're just like the couple, you're just like the family, you're living the journey just like they are.
And you
But
have a
as
passion for it.
Absolutely, but as soon as you elevate a professional and put them in that position, you're going to lose the authority or the privilege or the right of being able to speak in someone's life. It's actually the opposite of what we think it
Yeah,
is.
and the relatability factor, you being able to
You
relate
got to
to
be
everyday
related.
people because you are an everyday person,
You
right?
got to be. You got to relate. Exactly. And then we
Yeah,
look at, oh, you're a pastor. Okay, well, you're up here. Actually,
yeah.
no, I suck at life just like everyone else does. And as soon as we changed our title to a wedding officiant, we were more well received and more well respected.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, right?
Instead of wedding clergy or minister, but it didn't change who I am and it didn't change my passion for the kingdom. I just
Yeah,
put a different title on it.
yeah. Not use Christianese because
Nah,
you can't attract the unsaved with the Christianese. It goes over the head, and they reject a lot of it. I know, because I used to be secular, and
Yep.
the minute I heard pastor or
Now,
church, whoo, I'm running.
who's the carpenter from Nazareth? Who's the carpenter from Nazareth? Who is this guy named Jesus? Well, he's
Yeah,
just a carpenter from Nazareth. He was just like us, right?
absolutely.
Just like us.
Accessible, humble, and
Totally,
relatable.
totally accessible. Having a
Yeah.
nap in the boat in the middle of the storm, right?
Yes.
What is wrong with you? No, nothing wrong with me. I'm
Right.
just tired of having a nap. So
And so, how can people interested in this opportunity, which, by the way, to the listeners, this is a really affordable opportunity. If you are a Christian entrepreneur, or just someone who's interested in learning more about this, I mean, how much is it right
right,
now? As of, we are in what month? We're in March
right,
2024.
right.
This is under $1,000, isn't it? Under $1,000 for one time, and then on a monthly basis, something.
Yeah, it's going to have to be set up probably a little bit different in Canada because you got weird banking systems in the US. But
Uh-huh.
our the annual fee is $1,000 a year, so that's what it means to be a part of it. And again, we get all the resources, the coaching, the ongoing videos, the monthly connections that we have. We have all the stuff like any other membership would have. It's $1,000 a year simply from the perspective that we don't collect a royalty for anything. So there's two basic models of how people run a wedding or a funeral business. One is there's a central office and everybody gets fed events. We don't live that way. That's called socialism. I believe that if you're an entrepreneur, get out there and make it happen for yourself. So what we do then is we just literally set it up in such a way where we say, we're not taking royalties for this, so pay us up front. And the upfront fee is $1,000. And then make all the money you want. You don't have to send anything else for that. Our training to start is $625 for weddings and $825 for funerals. They're 2 half days is what they are.
Okay.
And we pack a lot in those 2 half days. 6 hours. I call it a half day. Let's go with that. There's 6 hours on a Saturday, 6 hours on a Sunday. And we train you and we certify you, and then we give you all the resources that you need to be able to go and do this. It's the ongoing connection, access to us that I think is most valuable. We've done this. We've scaled this thing in a way that no one else ever has, actually. We've never read of anyone that's ever scaled it the way we have. We've actually worked with the largest funeral industries, both Arbor and Service Corp International, on a corporate level. So we know what we're doing as well as on the private level. So the buy-in is actually pretty cheap. If you set your wedding rate at $625, for example, for one wedding, you do two, you've got your annual fee paid for. And then everything else is beyond that. At $1,000 a year too, what is it, $2.70 a day? It's pretty minimal.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm seeing some membership groups right now that are anywhere from $250 to $300 to $500 a month.
Yeah.
That's not us. And we just believe that the empowerment is the most important part of this. So sure, there's that remuneration and economics for us on this end, but we also have quite a bit of expense in terms of the hosting of the websites, the material that we provide, and then for us as an organization as well with the staff that we have. So yeah, very, very affordable. And you're not putting thousands of dollars out
Right.
for a possible return.
Exactly. Like we do with most coaching
Most
programs.
coaching programs are, here's my $5,000 for you.
10,000.
Yeah, exactly. And all the best, as you go out here and do this, most people that join us, Francine, they're doing 15 weddings their first year without doing anything, just simply by having a social media platform of being able to say, here's my website and I'm a wedding officiant or a funeral celebrant, and this is what I do. But if they follow our guidance and our steps and how we build this thing and scale it, you can take off. We have people doing 1,000 a year,
Wow.
like 1,000 a year. They've
And
got
it's
a
like
team.
a snowball. It just keeps going.
Well, you get a team, right? You get 15, 20 people working for you. Think about that. And when they're
They
working,
love you.
well, you know what? You're paying them, right? But you're keeping the largest portion of your income.
Yeah,
So if you're charging $625 and you're paying $300 to your officiant, you're pocketing $325.
for sure.
And you scale that over 20 people and you do that over every weekend. That's how we've been able to, I mean, we're well over $5 million since we've done all this. So the money is there and the ability is there and the scalability is there. The privilege of being able to build a missional community is there. I just can't say enough about it. It's such a
Right.
power. And honestly, who doesn't love weddings? Weddings are amazing.
Yes, weddings are amazing. And to be able to be part of that and not have to be part of any of the stressful stuff, just get there when it's all set and ready, do your
Just,
thing, and bye.
yeah, you know what? A ceremony is 17 to 20 minutes long.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's it.
absolutely. You
Yeah.
don't even have to stay for the whole thing. So that is
Yeah. No,
amazing.
you don't stay. I move on and go and do another one.
Yeah. And you could do four of those on a Saturday, like it kind of like a photographer, but I think it's a whole lot less work as well as
Well,
when you get going.
photographers, they're one in and one out. They're not doing multiples a day unless they've got a team. So
Yeah, it's hard work.
no, you
And,
can't do it because
and
you're there
so,
from the beginning to the end. So
yeah.
we're in and out. We're one and done, and then we're on to the next one. And you're walking in with your iPad, and that's it.
And yeah, and you don't have to get back with them with any proofs or anything like that.
No.
So that is a very simple,
Yep.
simple business model. How can people reach you, Wayne? I noticed that you're not very active on social media. What is the best way for them to find you?
Probably the best place to go. We have so many websites, but I would think lifecelebrationinstitute.com.
Okay,
So
and they would
life,
email you there, send you a message on the
I would go
website?
right to it's a website. So lifecelebrationinstitute.com. And what it does is it just kind of highlights the three main areas that we train in. So the hatch, match, and dispatch world. So we call it an institute. It's a Life Celebration Institute. And it's a la carte. You can pick and choose. You don't have to do all three. The death industry is a very specific industry. And if you know anything about it, when you're in the death industry, you are in the death industry.
Mm.
And most of the people that come to us to be certified as celebrants are already neck deep in the death industry. So they're a
Okay.
death doula, they're a licensed funeral director, they run a death cafe, they host death series. The death world is a very unique and very specific world.
Okay.
So anybody listening to this, they might go, well, yeah, I'm already in the death world. They might have a more memorial garden that they have or a scattering garden that they own on their own property. Same in the wedding world. Not often do you see a crossover, but for us as communicators, it doesn't matter. You're communicating.
Right.
So a celebration is a celebration is a celebration. You're either
Yes.
celebrating a marriage or you're celebrating a life, not their death, but their life. If it's the birth of a child, you're celebrating the birth of a child. What we do is we equip you to speak at these things and be professional at the highest level. So lifecelebrationinstitute.com is the best place to go.
Okay. Perfect. All right. For our listeners today, you heard it. Contact Wayne on his website. This is an excellent opportunity for kingdom entrepreneurs or any Christian out there who would be interested in this as a way to spread the gospel. It is a way to spread the gospel, and it is a way to make an impact on the king in the kingdom. So I want to thank Wayne for being with us here today on the Influential Christian Entrepreneur. And if you're a Christian CEO, entrepreneur seeking to use your business and your personal brand to win souls for Jesus, we create business kingdom content that helps you use your business content to spread the gospel in the marketplace. So you can contact me at my website, francine.sinclair.com, or you can email me at hello@francine.sinclair.com. I'm also very active on LinkedIn and Facebook, so contact me at any time. I hope you guys enjoyed this interview. I thought it was so interesting. We covered quite a range of things in this hour. And this has been by far one of my favorite interviews. So I hope y'all enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much, Wayne.
Yeah. Thank you so much. What an honor to be here. It really is. Thank you.
God bless. Take care.
Take care.